News Talk is online. News Talk Online, a production of Paltalk.com, syndicated by CRN Digital Talk Radio, and posted all over the place. Please go to reportergary.com early and often, like voting in Chicago, for stories that you may or may not see, hear, or read in the mainstream media. That's where the Paltalk News Network website resides. Yes, for those of you watching me on cam, I've got my snowman mug. I'm drinking hot chocolate in solidarity with my brothers and sisters in the Midwest who have 2 feet of snow heading their way, something that will be all over tomorrow, I am sure. As we just heard from our Washington correspondent, Victoria Jones, the Obamacare was struck down completely by a federal judge in Florida. And joining us to talk about that and whether she thinks this is an opportunity for the single-payer proponents is Margaret Flowers, MD. She's a pediatrician in Maryland. You may have heard her name because she's been all over the place advocating for a single-payer system. In fact, she's been devoting all of her energies of late to speaking out and organizing for a truly universal and comprehensive healthcare program, one that goes far beyond the law that was enacted by Congress and ruled unconstitutional today by a federal district judge in Florida. Dr. Margaret Flowers, welcome to News Talk Online on the Paltalk News Network.
Hello, Gary. Thank you for having me on the show today.
It's great having you with us. So do you view this as an opportunity? I know the people who are opposed to health care view it as a victory. Do people who support universal health care view this as an opportunity as well?
Well, it's important to realize that the ruling today is the 4th ruling on this. 2 judges have ruled in favor of the mandate. This is the 2nd judge to rule against it. So things are not done yet. This is going to go to the Supreme Court and will ultimately be decided by them. PHP does not advocate for taking away the law that was passed last year. We don't support the law. We realize that it doesn't address the fundamental problems that we have, but we certainly wouldn't advocate getting rid of it. We've watched over the last year as multiple waivers have been needed to get out to many industries, exempting them from the law. So I see this as kind of just one more piece of what happens when you try to create a very complicated piece of legislation.
Well, and what is very difficult, and not only difficult.
It's one more reason why we must continue to advocate for the simpler solution, the Medicare for everybody.
And it was a very complex law, as we are seeing, and the ruling today indicates how complex a law it is or was. It stays in effect under the ruling until it can be appealed because the way it was written allowed for him, based on the finding that one portion of the law was unconstitutional, to strike it down in its entirety, and that obviously was something that proponents of the law clearly didn't want to expose themselves to, or the law to, that kind of vulnerability. Now, it's possible that this appeal process, Dr. Margaret Flowers, could take several years to complete, but let's just presume, for the sake of argument, that the Supreme Court says, you know, the judge today was right, the law as it's written was unconstitutional, go back to the drawing board. What do you think, as you look into your crystal ball, will happen? Will we have this acrimonious debate, or will we see people on both sides of the aisle sitting down and doing what is truly best for the American people?
Well, we dream of the day when the people on both sides of the aisle actually sit down and talk about what's best for the people. We haven't seen that happen yet. We haven't had a true health debate based on the evidence of what works best. And, of course, we advocate and have all along advocated for a solution that we know has worked both in this country and abroad, which is an expanded and improved Medicare for everybody, a single-payer health system. We're continuing to advocate for that. We see that as things fall apart, we hope that that will be an opening where, if we're loud enough and strong enough and we're present with the solution, that they will seriously consider this.
Dr. Margaret Flowers is the Congressional Fellow for Physicians for a National Health Program. That's a national organization of 8,000 doctors who support single-payer national health insurance. Let's go to Jim in Michigan. Jim, welcome to News Talk Online on the Paltalk News Network. Good to have you with us as you await a huge snowstorm, aren't you, Jim?
Yeah, I waited, but I can't do much with it because I'm under doctor's care where it says, if you want to live to talk to Gary on Paltalk, don't shovel the snow. And I
well,
never
then we want you to
really
follow your doctor's orders, please, Jim, because we don't want to lose you. You're a great contributor whenever you call in. But go ahead with your question for Dr. Flowers.
Okay, my question is, if we're going to drag this out through the Supreme Court, and it could be 2 years or longer, isn't it going to it's going to take many years before it stops creating a debt, and wouldn't it still be better to put it on hold rather than to leave us in debt and apply towards some of that money to create jobs? And still, people today that don't have medical insurance are treated at hospitals, so they still wouldn't be losing.
Excellent question, Dr. Flowers.
Well, that's a good question. The bulk of the law that passed is not going to be rolling out until 2014. So it is anticipated that the Supreme Court ruling will happen before that 2014 date. And, so we'll give time to decide what to do at that point. What we see coming out of the new Republican majority in the House is very disappointing. It does not address the fundamental problems that we have. So it's important that we continue to be very clear and let our members of Congress know that we want the simple solution, the proven solution, and improved Medicare for all. And so we encourage you to continue to be vocal if you have been on that topic with your member.
This lawsuit today was based on a number of suits that were consolidated. I believe 26, if I'm not mistaken, attorneys general representing their states challenged this law. What would happen if we asked each state to produce their own health care program, thereby overriding their objections of the federal government overreaching and moving into the area of states' rights? I mean, that's basically what they do in Canada. Each province has their own system.
Well, that's certainly something that we've been working on in the single-payer community, and we have now at least 20 states that are working on or have some phase or in some of the phase of the process of a state single-payer legislation. The people that live in those states are fortunate that they have people in their states that are pushing for a real evidence-backed solution to solve their health care problem. We are concerned about people who live in states that don't have that kind of a movement, and if they experimented, we do have concerns that they would come up with a solution that would be truly equitable and universal and provide health care to everybody. So, but we are using the state approach as well as the national approach to try to prove to people in this country that this works very well, and we hope to be successful at the state level.
And I believe there's legislation pending, if I'm not mistaken, in Oregon for a state, and it may be a single-payer program there as well. Maybe that, if that happens, can prove a model for other states if it is successful. Let's go to William in Florida. William, welcome to News Talk Online on the Paltalk News Network.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Yeah, I got a question. I got a dilemma here. I'm on Medicaid, Medicare. Yeah, I'm on both programs. I cannot afford health care. Now, if the health care program goes, on a privatized program, how am I going to pay for it if I don't have the money to pay for it?
That's a great question, and I know that that's something that Dr. Margaret Flowers is working against. She wants a single-payer universal system so that you don't face that kind of a dilemma. But under the law as it now stands, Dr. Flowers, how would somebody who is forced to purchase commercially health insurance do so? And if someone is already on Medicare and or Medicaid, would they be exempted from that provision?
Correct. If somebody is on a public program such as Medicare or Medicaid, they will stay on that under the new law. But for anybody who does not qualify for those programs under current law, they're forced to purchase private insurance. Now, they can apply for a waiver if they're not able to afford the premium for a health insurance policy. And so, it's unfortunate that we're, one, forcing people to purchase a product which is very expensive and not guaranteed to cover them when they have a health care problem, and that it's still going to leave many people who are unable to afford the insurance uninsured.
Well, I know of people of the 50 and early 60-year-old age ranges who have lost their jobs during this economic downturn, and they're never going to find new employment, at least not that will provide for them health care, who are rolling the dice because they are either unemployed or underemployed, and they cannot afford health care, and they're just hoping that they live healthily enough until they are old enough to qualify for Medicaid so that they could get health care. And I think that's a real reality in this nation at this time. Let's go to Cassandra in the United Kingdom. Cassandra, welcome to News Talk Online on the Paltalk News Network.
Thank you very much, and hello, Dr. Flowers. Well, I have one simple question. In the light of the current financial situation that faces the United States, as well as many countries, how on earth are you going to be able to afford to pay for this? Because you've already got Medicaid and Medicare, which I presume are the vehicles by which people who haven't got insurance are dealt with. You're going to have a lot of people who fall between the gaps of being able to afford the insurance that's mandated, and who are going to say, but we can't possibly afford it. You've got to provide health care. Under this system, there is a guarantee of health care for them. How are you going to afford it? Thank you.
Thank you. That's an excellent question, because during the summer when we had the Deficit Commission looking at our deficit, we made the argument to them repeatedly that if we adopted a national improved Medicare for all health system rather than the law that was passed in March of last year, that we actually could cover everybody in the United States with comprehensive benefits and control our health care costs. Because right now, under the current situation where we have hundreds of different insurance programs, we waste a third of our healthcare dollar on marketing and administration. That's about $400 billion a year that is going to paperwork rather than going to pay for direct health care. So a national improved Medicare for all single-payer system would cover everybody and control healthcare costs. And as a result, because of its effects on families' income, families' ability to have discretionary spending, businesses, it would help solve our deficit problem.
Well, we're out of time. There are others who want to talk to you, Dr. Margaret Flowers, but we'll have you back. We really appreciate you spending some time with us on this, obviously at very short notice, given the fact that this was breaking news this late afternoon, that the federal judge in Florida has struck down Obamacare completely, but it remains in effect during the appeals process. Dr. Margaret Flowers from Physicians for a National Health Program, thanks for joining us on News Talk Online on the Paltalk News Network.
Thank you, Gary. I look forward to speaking with you again.
Me too. Thank you very much. We're going to be back at it in just a couple of minutes. Cassandra is taking care of the aftermath. Just a programming note, tomorrow we're going to have a very important show because we have a cyclone that's bearing down on Australia. We have the mother of all snowstorms hitting the Midwest, and we're going to have a 1 million man march on the streets of Cairo. So we're just going to be chock full of information tomorrow. You don't want to miss that show. So I'll be back again at 5 o'clock New York time tomorrow for another edition of News Talk Online on the Paltalk News Network. No Avi Perry tonight. He's taking the night off. Until then, peace out.